pledge.
Yeah, I know, but I think he's moving so slow, so I
No,
want to...
oh, okay.
The Assembly will now hear a statement by His Excellency Ahmet Davutoglu, Prime Minister of the Republic of Turkey.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, distinguished heads of state and government, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen. We have gathered to celebrate a historic event as we adopt an ambitious and universal sustainable development agenda. Together, we are making a pledge to transform the world for the better in the next decade and a half. Humanity faces complex and interlinked challenges: continuing poverty, ever-deepening inequalities, climate change and other forms of environmental degradation, global health threats, spiraling conflict, violent extremism, terrorism and consequent humanitarian crisis, including displacement of unprecedented numbers of people seeking refuge, threaten our well-being and our planet's future. On the brink of entering the new millennium, we had agreed on the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. Since the adoption of the MDGs, significant progress has been achieved to reach these goals. Unfortunately, progress has been uneven between and within countries. Some of the goals still remain off track. That is why we must all commit without reservations to the new global agenda that we are proclaiming today. It is particularly important that the 2030 agenda builds upon the achievements of the MDGs and addresses the unfinished business. Turkey strongly supports the emphasis on providing scaled-up assistance to the least developed countries and other most vulnerable countries. This will help to fulfill our pledge to no one will be left behind. Crucially, the 2030 agenda recognizes that what we have been witnessing for years, that sustainable development cannot be realized without peace and security, and that peace and security will be at risk without sustainable development. The humanitarian crisis in the Middle East is a case in point, a humanitarian tragedy caused by oppression as well as lack of security and stability. We are hosting more than 2 million Syrians in Turkey, 960,000 of which are children. For those who want to know more, we had 66,000 Syrian babies born in camps in Turkey. Turkey has spent almost $8 billion for refugees in camps, with very modest contribution from the international community. We cannot reach our sustainable development goals without first addressing complex humanitarian emergencies. That is why a stronger emphasis on the humanitarian development nexus is strongly needed. And that is why the Turkish humanitarian diplomacy combines humanitarian and development assistance programs within a collective strategy, particularly towards the countries in sub-Saharan Africa. The World Humanitarian Summit will be held in Istanbul on 23rd and 24th May 2016. It will provide an immense opportunity to assess the coherence between financing for humanitarian and for development assistance. We will also host the 8th Global Forum for Migration and Development Summit in October this year. There, we will discuss the implementation of migration-related goals, targets and indicators included in the Sustainable Development Goals. The new agenda supports the implementation of the relevant programs of action, including the Istanbul Programme of Action for the least developed countries. As the co-chair of the Group of Friends of LDCs, Turkey will continue its strong support to the least developed countries. We will host the midterm review meeting of the Istanbul Programme of Action next year in June. We count on the support of UN member states for the success of this meeting. Turkey has also offered to host the proposed Technology Bank and the Science, Technology and Innovation Supporting Mechanism dedicated to the LDCs. We are looking forward to the report of the high-level panel of experts, which will advise on organizational and operational aspects of the proposed technology bank. Distinguished delegates, the real measure of our success towards the new and ambitious development agenda will be our concrete steps in the implementation phase. That is why we need a paradigm shift to unlock the resources needed to finance the Sustainable Development Goals. The 2030 Agenda provides some keys to this question by incorporating the necessary means of implementation. These means are complemented by the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, which was adopted at the third conference on financing for development. The outcome of the Paris Conference of Parties on Climate Change in December will add another ring to the chain. These three outcome documents will establish the framework of the Global Development Agenda for the next 15 years. Combating climate change and achieving sustainable development are closely linked. As for Turkey, we will integrate the Sustainable Development Goals and targets into our national development plans. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey has placed development at the center of its G20 presidency agenda this year. Promoting the integration of low-income and developing countries into the world economy is one of our top G20 presidency priorities. We have worked very hard to ensure close alignment between the G20 agenda and global sustainable development efforts to end poverty, hunger and inequality, to promote infrastructure investments, food security, access to energy, youth employment, gender equality and inclusive economic growth while protecting our planet. The G20 is working to assist least income developing countries. Official development assistance remains key to supporting development efforts in many countries, particularly LDCs. As an emerging donor, Turkey has expanded the geographical scope of its development of cooperation and steadily increased the amount of its official development assistance in recent years. Our ODA has increased from $967 million in 2010 to $3.5 billion in 2014. This amount corresponds to 0.45% of our gross national income, and we are committed to further increasing our contributions. Yet, enhanced cooperation between the public and private sector to support sustainable development is also critical. That is why Turkish G20 presidency has made the role of private sector in development with a focus on inclusive business part of the G20 development agenda. We will continue to encourage efforts in this direction. At the G20 summit that Turkey will host in Antalya this November, G20 leaders will discuss in detail the group's contribution to the implementation of the 2030 agenda. Actions speak louder than the words. We, the leaders of nations from across the world, have come together to adopt the 2030 agenda under the roof of this august body. It is a very important step that raises humanity's hopes for a better future where no one is left behind. Today we are making a pledge to future generations. We will honor this pledge only if we work together. As Turkey, we are resolved to ensure our commitment and contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Turkey for his statement. At this point, I should like to inform representatives that we will now hear brief presentations by the chairpersons of the interactive dialogues. Following the presentations, we shall continue with the list of speakers for this meeting. So I hereby give the floor to the co-chair of Interactive Dialogue 1, His Excellency Miro Cerar, Prime Minister of the Republic of Slovenia.